I feel like everyone experiences this. Right when it happens, you think, why am I even doing this in the first place? I guess isn't worth it.
This certain individual just kind of listened to me kind of complain about things and just kind of stopped what we're doing and said, you know, give your head a shake. When you have a child racing, as you know, you ride the roller coaster with them.
I feel like we don't give Dad enough credit recently for how much he's got pretty thick skin around the house for being 51 and still racing.
We are MX Team Donor, and this is the Grit Reel series.
I should be the more comfortable person here because I'm not in the hot seat. All right, so Chris, obviously, and Ayrton, welcome to the first episode of the Grit Reel series. Pretty exciting. Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for hosting me here at your house. That's great. I just would love if you could give us a little intro.
I've been involved in motocross for quite a long time. Got started probably like a lot of kids and stuff, just started riding around the farm here. My cousin rode, my dad rode, and yeah, it just kind of looked like, I guess, a cool thing to do. So thankfully my dad got me a bike, and yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. Just started riding. Back then they didn't have a 50 or 65 class, so I had to wait till I got onto an 85 before I could go and compete. And then yeah, just worked my way up the ranks, and yeah, it's turned into kind of a lifelong passion so far. I'm still obviously involved in it, probably more than ever, and yeah, it's been great. There's not probably too much I would change at this point.
Well, I got started when I was 3, just riding around here at the farm. And I started on a PW50 and then slowly worked my way up from a 50 to a 65 to an 85. Now I'm on a 250. And yeah, I race, I ride, I train, I have fun. And yeah, whatever I can do at the track to help out with the team and help out with my parents, and just honestly do whatever I can. If, you know, I'm helping out someone I know on the line, or just try to help as much as possible. And yeah, that's about all I do.
So when you started racing, Chris, you weren't racing at that time?
Well, his first race was, I think, at the end of 2012 at Gopher Dunes. And I wasn't really racing much at that point. I was still riding a little bit, but yeah, the following year, which would be his first full year of racing in 2013, I happened to turn 40 the same year. So I started racing the kind of plus 40 class. And then, yeah, I just started riding more, racing more, and it was fun, you know, kind of to do it together. And yeah, it really hasn't stopped since then. We took him to a lot of races when he was a baby. We went to the Toronto Supercross when he was, you know, 5 or 6 months old, because I was working in the industry at that time. I just started actually at MXP Magazine, so I had to go to these events as part of work. So yeah, we would sometimes go as a family. So he got the taste of it very early.
Let's talk tracks. So what's your favorite top 3 tracks in Canada to race?
Well, I like Walton on a given day, like with the conditions are right. I like Walton just because the ruts are challenging. We don't get to ride that kind of stuff in those conditions very often. So Walton on a certain day. Deschambault is a great track in Quebec. And yeah, I mean, a little biased too, but I would say our track right behind us in our backyard. So
My number 1 favorite track would have to be Sandali, just because I actually do vividly remember racing there as on a PW. I really like Sandali. I really like Walton as well, especially this year. I've had troubles with it with the past, but especially this year I really liked it. And it used to be Deschambault up until I was on a 125 and I didn't have to hit the double, but now that I have to jump that double, I don't really like the track anymore.
I don't like you hitting that double either.
What are like some go-to race snacks for you? Like,
well, we eat a lot of fajitas on race weekend. Yeah. Our cook, Bernadette, my wife, his mom, she does great with fajitas. So I don't know. You just kind of, they digest well, and they always seem to taste good. And on a race day where, you know, sometimes nerves are an issue and you just can't eat anything you want. You need some energy. We go with fajitas is our go-to lunch.
Just any sort of steak. The night before a big race, I'm probably eating steak frites before a night before a race.
It's expensive option.
It's a big steak.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Good to know. Chris, I'm going to get you to sum up. If you could sum up being pro in 3 statements.
3 things about being a pro. Obviously, commitment. You have to be completely committed to your craft. Obviously, work ethic. You have to work extremely hard at different parts of it. You have to love the competition, and some days it goes well, some days it doesn't go well. But at the end of the day, you have to take away some enjoyment, because it's definitely not easy.
Would you say that there's been a point in your motocross journey that you've experienced like self-doubt, and how do you kind of tackle those self-doubts when?
Yeah, I've definitely had like moments of self-doubt. As a kid growing up, I never remember being like, you know, doubting myself or anything like that. I was always a little ball of confidence, but as I've gotten older, I kind of, you know, overthink it a little bit more. Just kind of when I got hurt last year, I remember I broke my collarbone and my scapula and punctured my lung. So I was I was bummed out at myself, and just like, I mean, I feel like everyone experiences this. Right when it happens, you think, why am I even doing this in the first place? Like, this isn't worth it. But I just remember after it, just sitting on the couch and going to races with a sling, I was just like, man, like maybe this isn't, you know, what I'm, you know, maybe this isn't what I should do. But I think I was pretty vocal about, you know, being pretty self-doubted during that time of healing. I wasn't a very happy person around the house, but the topic comes up sometimes about like, hey, like, just have confidence, like you're okay. But I feel like it's a lot of myself too. Like I kind of overcame it just by, you know, got healthy again and started riding again. I was like, yeah, like this would be, like, I think we can still do it. And then went to a race and won the race, and I was like, okay, like we can do this still, like thank God. But yeah, I remember getting hurt and just being very like, of course you got hurt, Ayrton, like you're not that good, and just you're not who you think you are, you're not that good. So that was my biggest self-doubt, you know, moment I've had in my amateur career. But yeah,
Part of the reason that I started this series so late is because of self-doubt. Feeling like, is this something that people will relate to? Is this something that will make like an impact on people? And then I thought, you know what, I'll just go for it, because even the experience of doing it is like, you learn things along the way, and that's a lot of fun, and see what comes of it, right? So what about you, Chris?
There's been a lot of instances of self-doubt and self-reflection, and usually it comes when you're facing some sort of type of adversity, just with what Ayrton was talking about. And it's just, that's part of being an athlete, I think, is just, falling down and, picking yourself back up and keep going. And when you're down, there is that, those moments of, can I do this? Should I still be doing this? And then, the more times you pick yourself up and get going again, the more times you kind of develop a bit of self-belief in your skill set. And, you keep going.
Who would you credit who's kind of helped you when you felt like stuck in the sport?
From being around like the pros a lot growing up, I know some of them kind of well, and like Quinn and Tanner and the Steve Sims for sure, and Brett, like they helped me a lot this year with when I kind of just felt like stuck and not motivated. Just like I remember riding with Tanner a little bit in the spring, and then I remember riding with him a little bit at Walton, and just like kind of feel like, oh, I'm pretty far off him right now. But then you remember how much work he's put in, and you're like, okay, well, you know what, maybe I'm just having a little bit of an off day, but at the same time, he's had to have had off days, right? You just gotta, for me at least, I just remember that, and I just look at them as role models. And some days I was having a bad day, and some days I felt like stuck, and you go talk to Steve and he lights you up a little bit. And I mean, maybe in the moment you're like, oh, I didn't need that, but 5 hours later you're thinking back to that conversation like I needed that, so those 4 people. And my dad, I lean on my mom quite a bit when it comes to that stuff, and just those 6 people for sure. This year, whenever I got stuck, I kind of lean on them a little bit, just to, like, even if I didn't talk to them, I just look at them for motivation and see how much work they put in, and you know what, you can do this.
Well, I would say, like, recently it's probably Ayrton, as far as giving me some harsh criticism, and speaking of being matter of fact, but going back, my dad was always someone that I certainly looked up to, and he would give me some advice, that the father son, or parent child relationship sometimes gets complicated, and then throw a sport into it, or some sort of competition, and it's a whole different level that you're dealing with and stuff. But no, like Ayrton, I mean, when I was younger, I had lots of support, whether it was even before I turned pro, whether it was pro riders who would take the time and talk to me, and give me some pointers, or almost sometimes reassure me that I was doing some things right on the bike, which gave me confidence. So yeah, I never, like Ayrton said, I was very fortunate. I've never had a lack of people to kind of lean on all through my life. So I've been definitely lucky that way.
That's cool. And so thinking about grit, one definition of it is strength of character and courage. Would love to hear, a time or an event that you personally had to kind of really muster grit.
The times that thinking back, the times that I've had to show grit, it's tough to kind of pinpoint a single situation or race. I think 2009 was probably one where I came back to race the Gopher Dunes National. Looking back, I'm not sure that was a great idea, but I really wanted him to see me race, because we've been talking about it all, for a couple months, and I was taking him to the practice track, and I'd put him on the front of the bike and take him around the track at the end of the day. So he was really starting to kind of understand, just really what riding was all about. So we talked about me racing. So so once I started down that path, there was kind of no turning back. And then in practice that morning, I had a huge crash, and kind of flipped over. The bike hit me, and the foot peg sliced my kind of side open, and it looked like a massive shark bite. And I got up, and if it had been any other day or any other situation, I probably would have called it a day and went and got stitches, because I eventually needed stitches later that night. But I knew Ayrton was coming, and I wanted him to see me race. And so yeah, that day was difficult. I mean, the results were terrible, but I mean, he didn't care, I don't think, what my results were, and I don't think he got it that I was that injured. But yeah, that was definitely a tough day, where I had to kind of grit my teeth and spend 2 35-minute motos at Gopher Dunes, wondering what exactly I was doing. But looking back, it was all worth it now.
I feel like hardest for me is probably this year at Walton. For me, it was a really good year, but it was kind of up and down through the week. And I won the very first Open Junior Moto, and then unlucky, I jumped on a yellow flag that I didn't see till the very last second, and ended up getting docked 2 positions, and kind of felt like I was like, oh, come on, like third place Moto 1 that's tough. But then I went 3, and then I got 4th in the second moto, and I was like, oh, come on, like, how do you go from winning the first moto to getting fourth in the second moto? I just remember being like little, just not very happy. And then that entire Monday, the entire Saturday, we had to wait. We were the last moto of the day at 4:30, and I just remember it was cold. It's kind of a weird weather day, and I just remember being like, man, like I don't even want to do this moto right now. Like I just want to pack up, have some fun tonight, like go to the awards, whatever. And I was sitting on the line. I was tired. I was yawning. I mean, I yawned before every moto, but I was tired. It's like cold, and I just had a sight lap and kind of got in the right mindset where I was like, screw it. Like, you don't got anything else better to do right now. You just might as well go ride. And sure enough, I whole shot and won the moto. But the entire day, I was just dreading that moto. I just did not want to do it. I don't want to race right now. I just want to, pack up and, enjoy the pros tomorrow. And I was done. But yeah, that moto sure turned it around.
What's like an outlet for you that helps you stay grounded outside of motocross? Like is there anything that you do to kind of de-stress, or is riding the track like how you de-stress?
My outlet for me to de-stress would just be just go on a road bike ride. Like this year I was, I'd kind of credit it to myself. I got a brand new helmet and I didn't drop it on the ground first before I went going riding. So I went out there and tucked the front and did a lawn dart into the ground. And I just remember being like, what the heck? Like, what am I, like, this isn't what I need right now. Before it was like, I think it was the Friday before Walton. I was like, oh, this is not what I need right now. And it just put me in a miserable spot. And I was like, okay, whatever. And Dad's like, you know what? You're not riding today. You're not riding the rest of the day. I'm like, all right. So I just went for a road bike ride and just mentally just put in music and just mentally kind of was like, okay, like just remember how much work you've done. You're all right. Like, calm down. And yeah, I'd say a road bike ride for me is the most mentally de-stressing thing I can do, because at the end of it, you feel accomplished anyway. So,
well, I think one of the like common denominators with people in successful athletes in individual sports is just that they're able to spend kind of quality time like with themselves, right? And Ayrton touched on it too, like going for a road bike ride or doing a long moto or something. I mean, it's just really, yes, you're operating a bicycle or a dirt bike or whatever, but it's really just you and your own thoughts, right? So I think my like just kind of outlet for recharging is it's probably just doing something around the farm here, whether it's I spend a lot of time on our tractor, working on the track, or just doing other stuff. It's probably just working around here and just hanging out, because that's what, seeing as we live at the home that I grew up at as a child, obviously I have a lot of memories here, so I can be doing something outside or whatever and just instantly think about when I was 6 doing the same thing, or something, help my dad do the exact same task, right? And just, I don't know, that just kind of, that always relaxes me, and it just helps me I guess recharge.
Oh, Chris, let me ask you, what do you like about training riders? What do you enjoy about the coaching aspect of it?
What I like about training riders is that I love the process of like getting better myself. So if I can have a hand in trying to help someone else improve, then it's the next kind of best thing.
You guys have a funny memory from this year, the track you want to share?
I think the
funniest memory for me is when Dad's just stressed out, and it just infuriates me sometimes, because he does not do it very well when he's nervous or when he's stressed out about my racing. Doesn't do a very good job of hiding it at all.
I try to hide it, to be honest. I try to hide it, but I feel like it just kind of comes out without maybe not even verbally, just you can tell when I'm stressed. But I think some of our funny moments are maybe after the fact when we're driving home, or and we talk about situation that maybe happened. Like the time, I think if you want to pick one, maybe Deschambault. Pretty funny.
Sitting on the gate before my third moto after I had pulled 2 hole shots in a row, 2 like huge hole shots in a row. And the Deschambault start is like, if you start on the inside, which is where we always start, like if you're starting on the inside, you're holding it on. And if you're holding it on, you're going real wide, and it's a scary start. And I pulled, 2 of 3 hole shots already, and he decides to go, hey, like I was talking to JC Sights. He's like, I think you should look at the gate sooner. In my head, I'm like, why? Like, why would I do this? I look back, I'm like, he's like telling me it, and in my head, like, it's, before the moto, so I'm already kind of, I'm kind of tuning it out because I don't agree with it. If I don't agree with it before the moto, I'm tuning it out anyway. So it's like, in my head, I'm like, why are you telling me this right now? Like, why would you do this? Like, I've gotten such great starts. Like, why would you tell me this right now? Why would I change my technique? And it's like, oh, well, I'm not telling you to change your technique here. It's, I'm just giving you a suggestion here. I'm like, well, you know what? Right now, I don't need this suggestion. But some funny moments would be, that one right there. Another one would have been at Walton. I was doing my hole shot device before the first 250 junior, or the first open junior moto, and for some reason he could not get it, and it was driving me nuts. And like, I think back to it now and laugh, but before in that moto, I was like, holy moly, like like, Dad, I love you, but you gotta pull it together here. Like, I need this whole shot device set. And it was like 8th try we finally got it, and I was like, oh gosh, like, Dad, come on. But just funny little stuff where he might make a mistake, and in the moment I'm pretty hard on him for it, but thinking back, we'll laugh to it.
I guess if you deal it out, you got to take it. You're both doing it. So, I mean, it's cool that you share that dynamic of really getting it, because I know, like, between my husband and I, he's raced and I haven't. So I can see the mental ups and downs that the kids go through, and I can see the frustrations, and I can understand from like an emotional perspective, but I can't conceptualize what it's like to actually hit that corner, what it's like to actually get caught up in that rut. I can look at it from afar and be like, you should have done this, because I'm hearing Jay in my head, you should have taken this line. Why is he taking that line again? He's taking the same line. And then I'm thinking, and I go and I'm saying, do this. And then I've had the kids say to me, Mommy, you don't race, you don't bike, you don't know. And it's a humble pill. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's true. I don't personally know. So it's neat that you have that dynamic where the frustration of this track because you wrote it, and vice versa, right?
The thing that's really good with my parents is my mom's she's been around the track for pretty long with my dad, and my dad's pretty contained, like self-contained when it comes to getting mad at stuff. But like, I'm sure my mom could read him like a book back then and see like, oh, he was pretty mad, and she understands the what the rider goes through in some aspects, but she understands the the at-home life when it comes to it. In my opinion, like, she knows like she knows what the rider might go through in the head off the track. Maybe not on the track, but off the track she can. And I feel like Dad is the complete opposite, where he knows a lot more about what it is like on the track. Off the track, he might not be the leading person in that. It might be Mom, but on the track, he knows what it's like. Off the track, I feel like Mom can really tell what it's like and sees how Dad used to be, and she can apply that to me. And yeah, I feel like the two of them like that, it works really, really good as a family.
I will add that during a race, and it's been like that since I can remember with him racing, that I do a lot of, like, if you mic me up for one of his races, you'd probably be, maybe shocked a little bit. Not at, it's not a level of anger. It's more just like talking him around the track, so to speak. And
sound nuts.
I do sound nuts. There'll be times I'll be sitting there watching, and I'm like, okay, go inside. And then like, he's going inside. And I'm like, okay, he saw that. Right. And he sees a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing, which, I think that's that's a credit to his, kind of talent and racecraft. And, over the years, he hasn't always been like the fastest rider on the track, but he's always been, one of, if not like kind of the best, like racers on the track when it comes to picking lines and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's, I don't know. I hope that when all this is, when all this is done, um, that we look back on it, you know, as a family and, as a father son, as something that was fun and enjoyable. And, one of those things where you're like, oh, wish we could do that all over again.
And I don't think that, I've never really had the parent that was, yelling in my ear, telling me to go faster, right? It's always kind of been up to me. Like if I want, if I want to go racing this weekend, we're going racing. If I want to go play soccer, we're going to play soccer. It's kind of, if we're going fishing, we don't fish. But if I want to go fishing, we'll go fishing. Like it's always kind of been, my choice if we're going to ride, and it's going to be my choice if we're going to race. And I feel like that's one reason that we're still very tight as a family, is I've never really had, I've never had dad lose it on me because I wasn't going fast enough. I've never had mom get mad at me because I wasn't going fast enough. And I feel like that's one reason why. And whenever it's over, I feel like we can look back and laugh and enjoy the times. There won't be any times where I was like, gosh, like, man, you really annoyed me at this point in time, right? Like it'll be more of a, those were fun years. It's never really been like, no, I don't feel like we've ever had hardship as a family with motocross. It's always just been like, always been good with each other.
What's something you're really proud of this year and something you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so something that I feel like I was really, really proud of myself for this year was winning the Most Improved Rider award at Walton. Just because, like, growing up, you kind of would look at people and they're like, oh, Most Improved. Like, I watched that kid all week ride. I remember, being like 8, 6, and 7 and just watching people and be like, oh, they won the Most Improved Rider award this week. And I was really surprised, honestly, that I won it. I remember in 2022, I was in the running for it, and Mason Murdy ended up getting it. And I mean, look at him now. He's doing awesome. And he was just in Charlotte racing the SMX race, and we got to watch him there. It was cool. So, and I was super surprised just because, growing up racing as well and having Chris Pomeroy as my dad, like, I feel like I get overlooked sometimes, maybe, as like, oh, he's only here because of his dad. And that's something that I've always kind of struggled with in my life, is, people, doubting me. And because, Chris Pomeroy is his dad. Of course he's going to be decent, or Chris Pomeroy is his dad. Of course he has, a good bike, and I feel like this year I kind of, showed to the people, in my opinion, that I could be really, really good. And yeah, that was something I was super proud of to get. I actually wasn't really even paying attention to which name was going to be called, if I'm being honest. All I heard was Ayrton Pomeroy, and I looked over at my mom and dad, and they're like, you won it, Ayrton. And they seemed like they knew. I was like, okay. And I was so happy. I was super honored to win that award. And it was also my best friend, Josh Bryan. He also won the award. So both of our names now are going to be in that magazine. So yeah, I was honored to win the award, and that was super awesome, and something that I don't think I'll ever forget, because I did not, like I said, I didn't think I was going to win it at all. So how I got involved with Walton Kawasaki was, we didn't really know what we were doing. We know kind of like what we wanted to do for the year, but we kind of like asked Brett, like, hey, if we get a Kawasaki, maybe, like maybe you could help us take the bike out west, and just kind of go from there. And I remember being like super stoked, like, oh my gosh, maybe I'll get a pit shirt. I was like super happy about that. And we went to Brett, and he sat us down. He's like, okay, like, we'll do this, but maybe we can do, you're under the tent, or beside the tent at all the big races. And he's like, if you're doing that, he's like, you're putting in the effort, like not just on Sunday with the pros helping us set the tent up and take it down, like you're putting in work off the bike. And that's where the whole meal prep came in, and the whole, we were doing, I don't think all teams do this, but I was doing notes the whole year in the notes app, with a shared note with Steve Sims and Brett Lee, and everything I did in the day, the workout I did in the day, what I ate, the riding, everything, every single day. And there were days that I forgot to do it, and maybe that was my fault. It was a pretty self-guided thing. You had to remember to do it. I forgot sometimes, but yeah, like just we got involved, and he's like, hey, like at the races, we need your help. If we we have a team manager, truck driver, mechanics, and riders. Like mechanics and riders aren't going to set up the tent, and Steve's going to be busy doing stuff. Like help Kale. So I'm like, all right. Like I was super happy to be doing that and helping I've always kind of dreamed of kind of helping a team in a little bit. And I like at Calgary, we were there on Thursday, and we helped set up the tent on Thursday, and WCAN helped set up the tent, helped take down the tent, and then at Gopher, I got a headset to wear at the races, which was honestly it was a dream come true for. I was super happy. It was on the headset, did the lap times for one of the motos for everyone, and yeah, I was really happy to, I was really happy with what seemed like something that maybe was just going to be take my bike out west and help us out that way. It turned into a whole summer of events, and I couldn't be more thankful for it. And in all honesty, it was the best summer yet. And just to be around that whole group and be around the riders too. Like, you see them before a moto, like as a racer, you can tell the anticipation before a moto, but like I'd like to say I'm, a good friend of Quinn's. And, I was this vlog guy all summer, and, one of my jobs was just to be there before the race and vlog him and, what he's doing. And to me, that was like, I was stoked to do it. And you just see the anticipation, and you see how, maybe how nervous he is. Even if he doesn't think he's showing it, you can tell he's nervous and he wants to do well. And to me, that was really, really cool to be able to be a part of that and see that, and and help him with a line. If I ended up being a spotter in the last couple rounds, and I was like, hey, like Tanner, there's a line here, and then he ends up hitting it in the moto, and you're like, oh, he's actually listening to me. Like that's so cool. And yeah, there's like, it was awesome to do. Exactly, like everything we did this year with Walton was amazing, and I couldn't be more thankful for it. My goal is just to turn pro at Walton at the end of the year. Well, I mean, there's a lot of goals. I have a book of goals that I wrote down this year, but the main goal is just to turn pro and have a safe and successful. My big thing that I always say is just safe and successful. So that's my goal every weekend, and that's my goal for next year.
Well, some goals that I have for myself moving forward and into 2025. First and foremost, just want to provide a good kind of stable foundation for Ayrton to keep finding success. Like we talked about, he made big strides this year, but next year as a intermediate rider, it only gets more difficult, more complicated. And yeah, if we can make strides there and keep kind of trending upwards, then for sure. But he's got a good base to build off this year. And professionally, just keep building the MXP Mag brand, and we're going to do a print, get back into doing some print issues, and continue to build that and cover the sport and its athletes, whether that's pro, amateur, WMX, off-road. Just keep moving forward.